running for Assistant Secretary. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone for really staying back. It's really a long day for all of us, so I'll try to make my presentation as relevant to all of you as possible, because I know that Assistant Secretary is running a lot of internal operations, so it might not be that relevant, but I'll try my best. Alright, some short information about myself. I'm currently year 2, probably one of the younger candidates around for today. Year 2 will be presenting later on. I'm from Faculty of Arts and Social Science, and I'm a psychology major. So in case some of you are wondering why the mentalist is here right now, just want to tell everyone that I'm not a psychic. I can't really read minds, because that guy is actually Patrick James from the mentalist, psychic detective, in case any of you don't know. So there are a lot of things that I'm dealing with is internal. So there might be some things that you feel that the Assistant Secretary can help in the capacity to help all the faculty clubs or the constituent clubs, non-faculty clubs. So I would like to know these concerns at the end of my presentation. Yeah, because I really want to find out about how I can help in these areas. So I'm also representative of the NUS Student Sports Club. So it's not a surprise that I like to run. Just a short interesting fact. I've been running since I was 7 years old, and I recently completed a 100 kilometers ultra marathon last year. Yeah, I didn't pay for the photo, so that's why it's like that. Yeah. Okay, this is the outline of my presentation. Like I said, I'll try to keep it as relevant and short as possible. First and foremost will be my portfolio, the experience and projects that I've taken up before, and my motivation, why I'm running for this position today. I think these two is quite important, because about 1 hour is not really a very long time for you to understand a candidate, and so I hope that this can give you a glimpse of who I really am. Following that, I'll be talking about how I see the Secretariat cell in the whole picture of the Union, followed by the vision that I've crafted and my plans for the Secretariat in general. Last but not least will be the questions and answers. So these are the positions that I've taken up before. They're not very NUSSU based, so it's kind of quite a lot of external experiences. First, I'd like to say that the position of Assistant Secretary, which juggles both logistics and services, might seem like kind of a saikang job to you. In a sense, logistics and services facility management is quite saikang. Yeah, so I don't think that anyone can do it, because there's a lot of management and details towards logistics that some people may not be able to see. Because you can't just keep your stores in the store and then expect things to be drawn out, drawn in, and then stays there and don't get lost. And that's about logistics management. It's not about saikang. There's a lot of details to it, which I want to tell all of you that actually I do have some form of experience and background in it. First and foremost, I was the quartermaster for 3SR, in other words, a logistics officer of a battalion, which oversees both the logistics management and also looking after the mess. The mess, in the sense, I have a stake in it, which is something like the student lounge in NUS right now. Following that, I was lucky enough, because my unit supported YOG in the opening and closing ceremony, so I was tasked as props officer. So YOG is only held in Singapore once, right? And so there's not a lot of systems in place to manage all these props. So I was able to apply my knowledge from Army and then reapply all these systems and create new ones in place, adapt to the problems of the props during YOG, and then reapply them, managing the logistics of YOG in general. So I think that it's kind of an essential skill, in the sense that I have the experience of bringing over systems from somewhere else and reapplying it to a whole new domain, which I feel that the logistics systems in the NUSSU Exco currently right now needs. Following that, I actually did operations officer for Jurong Lake Run. In case you all don't know, operations officer can be something like a VPD, but I was working full time, so basically I have no one under me. I do almost everything from marketing to publicity to coordination to planning the programs and logistics also. Last but not least, I did logistics head for Union Camp 2012, which is my first exposure to NUSSU actually. So, I did Union Camp because Mason was the PD. Basically, one of my friends actually looked for me do this role with him because he wanted a very smooth system. But he envisioned it to be a fun camp for both counselors and freshies. For me, I was a freshie last year, so I think that was enough for me to actually want to take up the role. And through Union Camp, right, I actually was where my motivation to actually step up came about. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Yeah. So what's my motivation to serve actually? What I think that the Secretariat cell is about support. So all I like to do is to support the projects and initiatives of the students. There was one experience during Union Camp whereby I think it is one particular incident, but there's a lot of others that led to this. There's one particular incident whereby I had to acquire a venue, and then I was unable to do so because certain regulations by OSA does not allow overnight booking and such. But I was able to get the support of one of the NUSSU Exco members who wrote in and then claimed responsibility and appealed for us, and then we did get the lounge in the end. I think this action might seem very small to you, but there are a lot of projects and activities where there's a lot of support required because there's a lot of logistics requirements, a lot of space requirements that I think that we should be able to support them, and think that all these small things, it's not the big things that actually matter sometimes, because you hear all the big pictures just now. I think sometimes the small things that are experienced by students itself, I appreciate it. I think I want to allow other students have the chance to appreciating this kind of help as well. So how do I see the Secretariat cell in the whole picture of the union? It is the, like I said, internal operations, the administration, logistics, and the services. So I see that all these are very important in the sense that it's roles that are able to support people. So I see the importance of communication and collaboration within the NUSSU Exco and also across member clubs. What do I mean within Exco? This is because I think this is more straightforward because within NUSSU Exco, because it's internal. So, but I want to bring back an experience that I had before, as I was the QM of, as the logistics officer of a battalion before. I sit in for a lot of meetings, which is with the company OCs and everything. So it's a higher meeting. From there, I was able to retrieve information that is able to make changes to my operations during for my logistics. Meaning, I'm able to react to the changes faced by the plans that they have at the top. So I feel that what logistics need is that you need to react to the changes that is happening. It's not about stagnantly being ready. You have to change constantly to be ready for changes for the things that what the top has for the whole organization itself. I mentioned across member clubs because I feel that there can be communications and collaboration. I think that in case y'all didn't know, last year there was already efforts put in place to actually gather a store list for all the faculty clubs, so that you can pool all these resources and the faculty clubs can loan all these items from each other. It's pooling of resources. But right now it has not been really set in place yet. But I think that this effort can be carried on forward. But I think it's not only just gathering the store list of every faculty club, but also getting something like a C-Cube, but for logistics itself, where all the logistics head actually gather using new media. I think this point I will mention later, but I think I'll just elaborate more since I'm on it now. Something like a Facebook channel where all the logistics people can come together, and then what they can do is they can pool their resources and their expertise together, because I think a lot of the projects in place right now are similar in nature. Orientation projects and rec and flag, all these kind of things, IFG, all the logistics requirements are quite similar in nature, and so I think that like for example, you need to loan something from someone, there's a certain contact that you have that someone who is new to the arena might not know of this. So by pulling all these resources together, expertise, and then your resources to loan each other, I think that it's quite a good thing, and you can better support the students across the member clubs and not just within NUSSU itself. So with all that in mind, I actually crafted a vision for the cell, which is to strengthen and maintain a professional and operations cell that is capable of supporting the union, its constitutional members, and the students. I actually stopped at first crafting it where I stopped at the union, but I realized that the union is nothing without its constitutional members and the students, and I want to keep in mind that what I'm trying to do is to help the students instead and not just within the NUSSU Exco itself, which is why I want to work across clubs to support students. For my plans and direction, I will not go into the plan too much in detail, but I will give my rough direction for where I want to drive it towards. But before going into that, which is logistics services, operations and archivals, I want to talk a bit about COMMIT. COMMIT is one of the committees under NUSSU, which is overseen by the Secretary itself and Assistant Secretary. So it's a committee that has been providing computer services and providing training for Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator skills for the students. And I think that they have been making really good effort. I want to support them to be able to provide more training for students. Right now, they have been conducting trainings more towards at YIH, and I think that I've recently spoken to the chairman. He has ideas to bring it over to Central Library, where there's more space for them to conduct trainings and hence can cater to more students. So what is my direction for the three components: logistics, services, and operations and archivals? I think that these are two general directions that I will be going towards. First is the strengthening of the efficiency. I think this applies more towards logistics and archivals. Like I mentioned, I think that there's a lot of improvement to be made for the logistics in NUSSU. So a lot of the things right now, I'm not sure whether you understand, but it's important to know what you have. So there should be an inventory list of what you have in your store. But I think that's not even present right now in NUSSU in NUSSU store actually. So what I'm driving it towards is actually towards keeping a computerized records of what you have, and by when things are moved from certain place and out, it can be tracked and then be able to see online. But I think this direction is a bit short for 1 year term. So what I'm trying to do is actually try to come up with the physical kind of I'm coming up with all the basic. For example, you have to do step 1, and what I'm envisioning is step 4. Step 2 is not even accomplished. What I'm trying to do is to go towards step 2 first and moving it towards technology. What is good inside the Secretariat cell right now is that for the lounge that is already computerized, is providing the services that it's supposed to be providing for the students. There is an online application form and there are dates. There's something sort of like a Google Calendar on the NUSSU website where you can see which of the dates are already being blocked out by students. So all these are very good efforts, which are examples of technology that I'm talking about. I feel that logistics should have something like that as well, which is to keep track of probably the van usage, when the vans are being booked, and maybe some other items which are commonly loaned, such as the speaker system. But I think the speaker system is right down right now, so I'll look into that as well. New media was what I was talking about. I was thinking of having something like where all the logistics of all the clubs come together using maybe something like Facebook, which they can gather their inputs and feedbacks, and sometimes when you need to learn certain things, you can really get a response faster through these channels. The second point actually goes more towards the student lounge, which is organization and conducive environment. Because what I think about them is that they already reach a certain kind of efficiency, and I think that what is lacking in the student lounge is the environment itself. It's not a really conducive environment for students. Before I go into that, I envision the lounge to be somewhere with a lot of potential where students can gather for casual discussions and then bond through games and activities. But right now the lounge is serving its purposes of providing the space required, which is a good thing. But I think that it has also become a study place for a lot of students. I think NUS is already full of study places, and I think the lounge is not one place that I want to make into something like that. It should be some place where people can come together for more casual discussions, like I mentioned. So, of course, I'm not discouraging you all from using a lounge to study, but I think that that's not the primary purpose of the lounge. So, having said that, I think that the conducive environment for all these activities is not present over there, and I think that the previous director of services has been putting in good effort in efficiency, and quite recently, I think he actually contacted contractors to get in new furniture for the lounge. And I think that's a good effort, and I want to continue the efforts on that, and then probably focus on the games area, which I think holds a lot of potential for communities who wants to bond through games. Of course, one of these plans, this plan will require, I think, a student survey, probably through the perception survey of PRU channel, such that we can actually find out what students really want, because this is a place for them, and I want to know what they really do want, and from there then we can set off a plan for the student lounge. That kind of concludes my plans for the sector in general, but I think that there are certain issues that I have not covered on, like the van lah. So, but I think that I'm open to questions for the van later on. So, yeah.
Of the Q&A session, any seconds? Any objections? With that, there's half an hour for the Q&A session. Anybody like to ask any questions?
Dr. CAC, I'd like to know if you have more concrete plans for the student lounge, because CAC actually faces a lot of space issue where there's a lack of space, lack of dance studio. So I was thinking if you could use the space in the student lounge for CAC activities.
I think the space in the student lounge comes more on a first come first served basis, right? So I think that to be able to cater to you all to use the space, I think we can actually I think it's important that there's communication between the clubs or the societies that actually use the lounge quite often. So so I think that we should actually kind of come together, not come together, how do I put it? Like, okay, just ask a question first. Are you using the activities on a regular basis?
Quite regular, I would say.
Or is it like weekly?
Yeah, like practices and stuff. No, but actually I just want to know, like, what are your general ideas for the student lounge? Like, how are you going to utilize it? How are you going to design it? Because it's like undergoing a revamp, right? From what I understand. Yeah, so how are you going to, what are your ideas for the student lounge basically?
The revamp, I think, does not include the changes of how the space is utilized. I think the lounge can be broadly classified into 4 areas, which is what the previous director of services have told me. There is a first activities area when you first step into the lounge, where there's a projector screen, followed by a stage area, followed by another kind of like a discussion area where there's a second screen, and lastly the games area, which is underutilized. What I envision for the lounge is that it should be able to cater to the students who wants to use it first, because it's a space for students' activities. So I don't think that I want to put a lot of fixated kind of ideas for the lounge, because it would not, because right now all the tables and chairs, if you can see, right, they are movable. So it's to cater for space for people to use. I don't want to create an area where it's specially designed for certain things, except for the games area, which is kind of different, and there are fixed structures there that cannot be removed. So my general direction is that the games area should keep in a certain format, but the other area should be keep open, so that there should be sofa, tables and chairs, but they should be easily be removed for activities to be going on. Yeah.
Xia and Jin, can you identify 3 key inefficiencies for the set cell for the past term, and what are your plans to improve on such efficiencies?
It may not be fair to ask him this question given that he was not from the Exco.
Sorry, can I clarify? Because he hasn't been in the past Exco, but he has been working in the past Exco. I think it's still relevant.
Key inefficiency doesn't mean the top 3, right?
Anything that comes into your mind that you feel that is important enough to bring up?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind is archival system of the SEC cell. Right now, the SEC cell doesn't have a basic system of archiving its items. There's a lot of many years of minutes that's being kept in a sort of like a library. where all the documents, we have to look for them, we have to look through all of them to actually find out about previous minutes. I think this is important, although, see, I think a lot of the clubs don't go through their minutes, but I think there can be some issues that have been discussed over the past few years regarding union issues, and I think student issues don't change over the years. They have been revolving around the same issues, and certain conclusions have to come to them during these minutes. And if you are able to come up with a system that's able to better manage this system, I think it'll be very good. What I heard from the outgoing assistant secretary is that he has already come up with plans, although he has not officially announced them, to come up with a system of continuing for the current minutes that's coming in right now. So for example, for today's minutes, then there is how it's going to be going right is that there's a system, there's an Excel sheet where there's tag numbers to every file. He has come up with a system of his own. But what I'm looking that I think that should be that can be worked upon is all the past minutes. So I envision a database for these files by scanning all these documents and then having a database to search through the text. I've spoken to Commit Chair regarding expertise for this part, but he hasn't get back to me. He said he'll get back to me next week. Although I asked him a few weeks ago because I think his tech cell is actually quite busy with the central forum, changing the central forum computers to Windows 7. So that's why they'll be quite busy, and Commit is unable to commit basically. Yeah. So that's one area for archival. The second part, which is for logistics-wise, I think there's a lot of areas to look for, but if I use both points for logistics, I think it's not fair for services. The inefficiency of the logistics right now is that we don't even know what we have. There has been a lot of projects going on, a lot of money being put into all these projects, but this logistics has not been really sort of recorded now. For me personally, I was the logistics head for UC, Union Camp, and yeah, it wasn't required of me, so I didn't really record it down. And then, so I'm sort of at fault, but I didn't know the bigger picture at that point of time. Right now, what I see is that actually it's very important for all these logistics to be recorded, so that it's for the sake of continuity, where there can be more use for these items rather than being lost in the dungeon and probably hidden under red sheet. Yeah. So for the dungeon-wise, what I feel is that there should be better management by first removing redundant items. I think this is kind of how I use an analogy for this. Is like your email. You keep receiving emails, but you never delete them. Then it goes up to a very, very high amount. Then one day you want to delete them, it's going to be a lot. Then there's no space, or you're forced to do so. I think what the dungeon is right now. The dungeon is the store for the logistics of NUSSU Exco. Is that all these things should first clear out first, and then there should be proper tagging of the places of where things should be, and there should be a list of things that has been commonly used throughout projects, such that these things can be maintained and kept in order, such that they can be reused. Yeah, so that's for the management of the logistics store, which is a dungeon. For the services part, which includes the student lounge, the push carts, and the barbecue pit, I feel that there are areas to improve in each of them, but since you mentioned 3, I will just touch on the push carts for now. So what the push carts is about is that quite a while back, I think there has been almost no one using the push carts as well, but I think recently you have seen some people selling nail polish over there. I think the push carts was an idea first initiated to actually help in entrepreneurship, right? So it's for students to use. If it's underutilized, I think that this is not really optimal use of resources that we have. I think what I can do is that I can include in the perception survey of whether students want these push carts at the central forum or the science area, where I think there's more crowd gathering over there. Might not be all 3, but I'll cater resources optimally. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Wei Xiang, let's say about push cards.
Yeah.
Let's say all the push cards. Would you actually allow external vendors to make a rental for it? to apply for rentals, to sell their stuff, sell their products. Given if you are allowed, you can authorize them.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the push cards was initiated as either to help students, right? Not for, so it's not open to external vendors, any Exco members, in case. Yeah. So, having said that, it was from no use to quite an amount of use recently. I don't think that it's actually quite free for external vendors to use anyway. But what I would like to promote is actually for students to use them, and by moving these push cards to Central Forum and Science, I think there will be higher usage, and I don't think we will require any external vendors to actually come in and use them. So the answer is no. Thank you.
Machine Life Science. Okay, just now during your presentation, you mentioned that you're ready for questions about the band. So let me just respond to you now, okay? What issues do you see, what problems do you see regarding the band working, and what kind of solutions do you have for them?
Okay, I came from UC as logistics head, so I was actually kind of a user for the van as well. But I was kind of given priority for the van because of it being a NUSSU event and everything. So I understand that for a lot of other faculty clubs, they are unable to use the van for such issues. Having said that, I believe that all of you should have a fair chance, but I think that the van is a resource that has been overutilized in certain periods of time, and that's why it's necessary to block them at certain periods like the FOCC period. I think like what Aloysius mentioned during Chloe's speech just now, what I do see is that I also view the importance of giving priorities to people who, which the event will require it more than those who might not really need it, like transportation of staff from, let's say, Science to YIH. You can maybe use it in a better way. So other than communications in a sense, communications, because I've mentioned that I want to have all the logistics heads from each faculty coming together to actually discuss and share resources. I feel that there can be another system in place, although this is an idea that is not concrete yet right now. I think that we can have a point system whereby each faculty is actually given a certain amount of points to book the van. So, example, if I'm giving the choice to the faculty when this event is not important, will you use your points to actually book the van or not? And then they will decide for themselves. But of course, when it will still come to there will still be a chance where both events clash, and the van has been booked. As in, both clubs will want to book the van. So I think my solution for that should be the same as Aloysius, which is for both clubs to come together and then to talk it out. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steven Madsen. Okay, so with regards to the launch, right? Because with the revamp, there will be an increase in the staff inside. So it will increase manpower, increase budget, etc. How do you plan to work to ensure its sustainability over the long run? Because even the current launch is still relatively new and it's still like that. Yeah.
Yes, the launch has only been 2 years old, but I think the physical state of it is not in a very good one. Right now there are certain furniture that has already been spoiled. I think there's one sofa that is kind of wavy in shape, and the skin is not really very durable. I think what the current Director of Services have been doing is he has been checking on the furniture quality. I just met him yesterday. He was looking through samples of what materials for the sofa that's coming in. I think what he is doing is that he has made sure that the material is durable in the first place, so that they don't really spoil over a very short amount of time, which means it will last. But having said that, I think maintenance of certain place, right, things do spoil, so that we try to really make it last longer. I think that's one solution for the furniture inside. And for manpower wise, you said for the space management, right? Because there's new furniture coming in. Actually, the old ones, the one that's spoiled is going out, so that's why they are making space for the new ones to come in. For the manpower wise, actually the lounge has not been managed by anyone for now. They were engaging student volunteers to actually manage the lounge. They sort of get underprivileged students to actually come in to manage the lounge with a very small amount of fee last time. But this wasn't working very well because I think there wasn't much to do at that time. So that's why they were out. And then so the lounge has not been in a very good physical state. I'm exploring the option of bringing them back, which is not concrete yet right now. Yeah, I think that's all for the. Does that actually answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Kenny from Law. So coming from the Bukit Timah faculty, okay, previously you mentioned something about there being a combined inventory list, so whereby faculties can borrow items from one another. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that if law school has some item that another faculty want to have, they will find it a hassle to come over to BTC to get it because of the physical distance. So do you have any ideas or any concrete plans on how to mitigate this distance? Because even for us, when we want to borrow any items from the dungeon or to vent the vent itself, it can be quite troubling, the distance.
To be frank, I don't have a solution for that because it's true that I think there's a factor of conveniency right here because the student lounge and the logistics are centered in YH, and I think that's having a problem faced by law faculty, law club for a very long time now. So I don't really have the solution for that because we probably cannot say, oh, because you need the thing, we will use the van to transport all these things to you because you need it. But I think that what we can come together is that the sort of group that I'm talking about can come together to actually advise on maybe certain things that you need. Then it happens that someone happened to be able to bring it over. It's more of a casual kind of relationship rather than a very concrete solution that I'm actually proposing for you. So honestly, y'all will not really benefit from my plans actually. But what I'm saying is that this Facebook network that I'm trying to create should be able to at least help you in advices. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Joyce, okay, since I answered one the role of the assistant secretary is to assist someone as well as to assume his duties in his absence. So how would you go about assisting Wilson, and are you ready to step up the position in his absence?
Okay. For General Secretary, because this role has been reshifted before, so previously it was to assist him in more administrative issues like taking minutes and stuff, but am I supposed to take over his role in events management, like the DOPs and orientation projects? Can anyone correct me?
Can I clarify something? What Wilson has presented was his plan. If you have any idea of how the ideal structure should be like, I think you can voice out your opinions or your perspective. It need not be restricted completely according to what he has presented.
Okay. For the administration part, I think that I have no problem assisting him in the area because I've been an admin officer, logistics officer is admin officer, so dealing with paperwork, and operations officer deal with, like I said, it's a BPD who has no man under him. I take minutes as well when I was operations officer. So I think I have no problem in assisting administratively. I'm not sure about the structure right now, but I do have the events background, such as organizing a Jurong Lake Run and being in the committee for Union Camp to be able to give him advice on the orientation projects that he will be overseeing. Yeah. And I think I'm ready to be able to help him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Engine. Given the lack of experience that you have compared to the other candidate who was involved in the past expo, how do you think you can meet the expectations and perform up to expectations to meet your KPI running for this position?
I think it's obvious that I'm year 2 and I've not been exco before, but I think that it's not really a rule to say that a year 2 or someone that's not in exco before cannot run for a constitutional position. So I do not have exco knowledge, but I'm willing to learn of what the committees do, what the exco do. But what I do have complement for that is that I do have external experiences in the management that I can contribute to. And I think that is slightly more important than actually for continuity, because I can learn from the one person before me about all these things. But I think I'm someone that is more willing to make changes because I've seen changes happen and seen them work. Yeah. Thank you.
Since you were part of the sports club, you ran through them, so you are their exco rep. Would you share with us like what you've done with them, so that we better know you in terms of your experience with non-club?
Honestly, I didn't really take part in activities, but running through sports clubs as their representative and becoming their voice. So I think that what I'll be doing during this term is that I'll be speaking up for the interests of the sports club, but I've no prior experience with them. Yeah, thank you.
Derek from USC. So this is with regard to your plans for continuity. So seeing as you're year 2 now, you're going for this job as assistant secretary, right? Would you see it as a time when you're going to institute projects or changes that you might want to see through in the future? And I will leave this to you to answer or choose not to answer if you feel comfortable.
The continuity that I was mentioning was for the logistics systems and how the lounge will be moving on towards the next few excos. So it's actually about creating systems that is not supposed to hinder people, but is actually stable enough for it to be able to pass on effectively throughout.
Sorry, to just clarify a bit, sorry if I was a bit unclear.
Yeah,
so
okay.
do you yourself feel that you want to continue on in into position to see through all these operational things? Or,
currently I have no plans to actually do it because I've not really thought that far yet for now. Yeah, thank you.
There's still 10 minutes left on the Q&A.
Ren Kai asks, what makes you a better candidate as compared to others?
I'm not sure about him, but I'm someone that is willing to communicate with people. I would like to know what they want to do so that I can be able to be ready for the changes that I can do on my side to support these people. So I'm not sure about him, but I think that I'm someone like that. Yeah, and of course the experiences that I've come with as well. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Kenny from Law. So I understand that the portfolio of Assistant Secretary would include taking over the General Secretary in the event that he is unable to fulfill his duties. So are you able to, on top of your existing duties in your position, take up the additional roles as well and oversee this presidential cell as laid down by Ren Kai's new organizational structure?
Honestly, in terms of experience, I think that I do lack a lot compared to Wilson in running through. He has been the president of faculty club, so there's certain things that my experience will not allow me to do so. But I think that I might not be able to take over his role entirely, but I'm able to support him right now. And perhaps if such a case happens, what I can do is that I can work together with the Deputy Vice President to actually lead the cell together as well. Yeah, I think that's what I can do. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Engine. Would you be able to tell us what would be your key performance indicator for the next term, for you to define your term has been a successful one as a Assistant Secretary?
think there are many areas, so I'll just sort of kind of break it down for now. I think I'll start off with the lounge. I think that if I'm able to just, because I've said the efficiency part about it is really quite good. If I'm able to come up with the games area itself and then get people to actually come down to use them, I think that's one area. The second area is where the logistics in the cell, where I'm driving towards technology, right? I think the first step is first to come up with the first inventory list for the store list. So I think that's for the logistics part. And of course, I think coming up with the group itself is not really a KPI, but I think it really depends on how willing every faculty is willing to come down to join this group. Then for the third part, which is archivals, I think archival in the database that I was envisioning is quite a long process. Might take very long because I'm not a person that is very well versed with sort of IT. I use all the things that you are using right now, but I'm not into database, correct? So what I need is the expertise. I'll try to find it, but it will be sort of take a step in. Like if I'm able to take small steps, I think I'll be able to finish what I envision. Someone will be able to finish what I envision in the future. So that's for archivals. And then in general wise, how successful I am, it depends on how successful NUSSU and the NUSSU Exco come out as a whole, because I said it's about support. So if they fail means I sort of have failed in certain ways. So it depends on what your requirements are. If you all give me very, very high requirements, then I'm unable to support, then I kind of have failed, but hope you all don't have too high requirements. So yeah, thanks.
Is there any other question from the floor? We still have 4 minutes. Yeah.
Xia and Jin, since the director of logistics will be under your so-called supervision, right? Could you share with us what is your approach or follow-up action? Suppose your director of logistics loans out equipment or even van, for example, to students, and it was returned not in its original good condition. Would your approach be a very strict and reprimanding one, or would you have any other kind of approach to follow up with this kind of problem?
I think that for all of us students, right, who have drove the van before, I think that it's not a very easy job. So if they have not driven it well, and they have come for sort of, just a point of information is that there is a certain thing called van orientation being organized by NUSSU Exco for those who need to drive the van. Although we are not really sort of trained to do so, I think that we do point out certain key mistakes that people can make and how you are supposed to use the van properly. Honestly, I'm not someone who is very good at it as well, but I think that I can look for friends that can provide me with the advice to make this van orientation a better one for the students. And if the students have failed in that area, I think that I sort of have failed in certain way as well. So what I will want to do is I want to make sure that the van orientation process is kind of done properly first. And in the sense that if it is done properly, then I think you still can't blame the students, because I think the van is still quite tough. Yeah.
So if I understood you correctly, you would take a more soft rather than...
I would take a softer approach, knowing the circumstances of how the person actually, because it's a circumstantial thing. Yeah.
Cassandra Science. So maybe can you summarize in 2 or 3 words the kind of assistant secretary that you hope to be or envision to be?
I think I want to be reliable, meaning because to be reliable, people must know that you can do the things that they want you to do, and then you deliver them, then you become reliable. Yeah. Thank you.
We have time for one last question.
Motion to close Q&A.
Any seconders?
Second.
Any objection? Seeing none, the motion is passed. Sorry, who's on the second? So with this, let's put our hands together.
Two. Two. One. Two. One. 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 Two. Two. One. Two. 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 One. Two. 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 One. 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 Zero. One. Two. One. 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 Two. One. Two. 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 One. Two.
I don't know the count. Yeah, correct.
So the vote was to affect the outcome. Okay, as the returning officer, I return Wei Xiang as the Assistant Secretary of the 34th NUSSU Council.
Just